We are into the 50s with our look at who wore it best, the best numbers, the best jersey numbers in all of St. Louis sports history. And do we have a good one for you
Yeah.
today? Joe Roderick, Bernie Miklasz here with you. And I can already see Bernie cringing at the thought of these two guys that he has to break down. I cannot wait to see all of your comments and all of your input, whether you're watching this on YouTube or whether you're commenting on our Twitter account, our Instagram, or our Facebook. We knew when we made this list that this number right here was going to cause some debates. And that's what we're here to do today, because we have stopped right in the middle at number 50. And Bernie, it's two guys who have brought championships to St. Louis, who have been key parts of championships in St. Louis and are beloved today by all St. Louis sports fans. Adam Wainwright, Jordan Binnington at number 50. Where do you even begin at this?
And Joe, if you don't mind, I don't think he's the reason why I'm not going to make a big deal about it. But, Easy Ed McCauley, and he was a guy who wore a lot of different numbers, right? First of all, he wore number 50 at St. Louis U, but this is about pro sports. Yes. But when the Celtics traded him here, he was like an NBA All-Star. They traded him here his first season for the Hawks, and he was an NBA All-Star that year. He wore number 50. So my point in bringing him up right at the top is, like, I want to acknowledge what a great, great St. Louis sports star Easy Ed McCauley was, and also a local legend. But I have to say, with all due respect, I think it's a two-person discussion between Jordan Binnington and Adam Wainwright, number 50.
Yeah, and you look, I mean, just from the start, I mean, right away, I think some, and fans of a certain age are going to go different ways with this. I would say I'm 40. And I would say people that maybe trend a little older than me are going to sit here and they are going to say that we're crazy for thinking anybody except Adam Wainwright would be worthy of this. And I think people trending a little younger than me are going to look at the memories of 2019 and what he has done for the Blues of the last 6 years and say Jordan Binnington is absolutely deserving of being in the same conversation as Adam Wainwright when it comes to when it comes to their careers. And really, I mean, the potential of where Jordan Binnington still can go.
Well, that's right, and it's an agonizing thing, and it's not an open and shut case for Wayno. Listen, Jordan Binnington did something that obviously no St. Louis Blue goaltender ever did, which is win the Stanley Cup. And it's not like he was a passenger along for the ride. They won the Stanley Cup primarily because of Jordan Binnington. I don't think anybody would dispute that. I mean, let's just talk about this briefly. And I think people don't really need the backstory, but we can review it really quickly. The Blues had no idea who to use at goaltender. They didn't know what to do, and they had Binnington in their system, but he was really way down there in the depth chart that season. And so they said, well, we got to play somebody. They brought him up, and as they say, the rest is history. From the time they put him in net, until Game 7 in Boston, when in the first period he won that game because the Bruins should have scored about 4 goals. Jordan Binnington played as well as any athlete in any sport in the history of St. Louis sports. They don't win. There's no way that team wins the Stanley Cup without Jordan Binnington. He was absolutely incredible. So that is a huge, huge accomplishment. That is a singular accomplishment. Now, on the other hand, Joe, and I certainly don't let me do all the talking here, but Adam Wainwright, even though in 2011 he did not pitch because that was the year he blew out his elbow, but he was still a big part of the team. And the Cardinals, kind of like Binnington with the Blues, the Cardinals do not win the 2006 World Series without Adam Wainwright as a rookie closer. He had never done the job before. Isringhausen was out. He had a hip that was so bad it needed surgery. He couldn't pitch. La Russa and Duncan tried all kinds of closers, and they finally said, Wainwright, I know he's a rookie, but he's got great stuff, and he doesn't scare. So let's try him. And they tried him late in the regular season, and he looked good. And Isringhausen said, go with him. This kid's got what it takes. And if you think about it, in 2006, the Cardinals had to go. I'm trying to think of the first round. They beat San Diego, but he closed out every and then in the second round they went, game 7 in the NLCS, one of the most famous pitches in St. Louis history, the curveball that froze Beltran with the bases loaded for the final out of the game. And then in the 2011 World Series, he closed out game 7 there. Like every postseason victory the Cardinals had in 2006, and that we're talking about 3 rounds of baseball, he was the closer, and he was perfect. Yeah. Perfect. So, and then you look at the other stuff. I mean, he never won a Cy Young Award, but he finished second or third like 5 times. I might be off on my count, like one time.
2 second place finishes and 2 third place finishes, and absolutely robbed, I think, of one of those Cy Youngs.
Yeah, he was. Sure. Yeah. He was. And listen, and I've written a lot about Wainwright in this context. I truly and sincerely believe he's the second greatest starting pitcher in the history of the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at where he ranks, he is, he's second to Gibson in strikeouts. He's second to Gibson in wins, I do believe. He is up there, in the leaderboard in all these top 5, top 6 categories. When you have a franchise as illustrious as the St. Louis Cardinals, and you end your career, and if people look at where you rank in all these important categories, and they say, you know what, Waino's the second best starting pitcher they've ever had, and he also had the longevity to go with that. Because you remember Dizzy Dean was great and he got hurt and then he kind of faded after that. So if we're arguing on if we're advocating Wainwright, it would be like, this is one of the truly great St. Louis Cardinals pitchers of all time. And without him, they don't win the World Series in 2006. And without him, they do not get into all those NLCS series while he was a Cardinal. But you can right, you can also advocate for Binnington and not feel like you're trying to force it. So this one's going to be a good one for our viewers and listeners. But anyway, I'm talking too much. Give me your thoughts.
No, with Jordan Binnington, he is 31 years old now. We have seen him for 6 years. We don't know what his future looks like with the St. Louis Blues. He's going to be their starting goalie for next year, but the future is unknown. Where Adam Wainwright, how many pitchers do you think that we will ever see again that play 18 years all for just one team? And that in itself is impressive. And I think when you look at some of the modern day Cardinals that are on this list, when you look back at Yachty at the start of this list, and you know that he is in that same boat with Wainwright as far as playing his entire career here. It's one of those things that when you look at a guy that's played in the 2000s, that is just so damn impressive that they stuck with that one team that whole time. And I think that also kind of warrants a few points in Wainwright's direction.
And he also had some other awards. Like, he was an all-star 3 times. And he could have been an all-star, let's face it, 2 or 3 other times. He also won a Gold Glove. He won a Silver Slugger. He was a really good hitting pitcher. He got Cy Young votes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different seasons. He got MVP votes. I'm looking at it now in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. And again, when you look at 200 wins, and you look at my goodness, over 2,200 strikeouts, and you look at what he did in the postseason. For example, in 2013 for the National League pennant winner, the Pirates were great that year, and they had a 2-1 lead in the Cardinals in the division round. And Waka got the series home to St. Louis. It was 2-2 at that point. And Waino outpitched Garrett Cole, and Waino had one of his very best postseason starts. And, they get to the NLCS because of that start. Not the only reason, but he came through big time. So I don't know. I think the career body of work definitely warrants Wainwright's selection. But if people want to say, well, listen, only one goaltender has ever won the Stanley Cup, and this guy absolutely, even from when he was in the regular season, that team took off after hiring Berube, but also bringing in Binnington. They took off. They were one of the great teams in the league from after January 1st of that year. But that was such a singular achievement, such a profound singular achievement, winning that Stanley Cup. Anybody that selects Binnington, I'm not going to tell them they're nuts or that they're wrong. I'm just not going to do it. That would be disrespectful to Binnington, but it's how you judge. All right, what matters more? A great sacred St. Louis franchise that's been around for more than 50 years, only won the big cup one time, and this guy did it. Or is it Adam Wainwright, who's arguably the second greatest starting pitcher in the history of the franchise? With a lot of awards and a lot of honors put on him as well, and a great team leader. I don't know. Joe.
Lucky for us, we can hand things off to our viewers. And if it's one thing that we've learned through the first 5 weeks of this, the Blues fans are very, very loud in the comment section of all of these debates, and they will let their voices be heard. And we will see how it all plays out. Adam Wainwright, Jordan Binnington, both wore number 50. As you mentioned, some other great 50s that we've had. Easy Ed McCauley, who wore it while he was at SLU, but we're only going pro. But he did wear it one season with the St. Louis Hawks.
All-star season.
Bernie Pisa Tinoe Samoa, Hawaii 5-0, wore number 50 when he was with the Rams. Those are the ones that pop into my head when I think of number 50s throughout St. Louis sports history.
And I just because I got to know Easy Ed and respected him very much, you got to look at his career in the NBA. This is one of the, if you did it, in fact, I did this list a couple different times. If you do a list of the top 10 NBA players from St. Louis in league history, Easy Ed is on that list. Even though maybe he has been eclipsed by some of the younger guys. And, Bill Bradley's on that list, Larry Hughes, Jason Tatum. I mean, the great JoJo White. I mean, I don't want to leave people out. There's a bunch of them. But Easy Ed McCauley, easily one of the top 10 NBA players to ever hail from our great city. So I just want to give him some love. He's not going to win the vote, but I want to give him some love.
Let us know your thoughts. Who is the best number 50 in St. Louis sports history? Let your voice be heard as we hand things over to you here on STL Sports Central.